Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new. My name is Chelsea. As you might be able to tell from the title of this video, we're gonna be talking a little bit more seriously today. So before we begin, I'd like to give a disclaimer. I'll be mentioning numbers, scales, food guilt, all that relates to weight gain in this video. My intention is never to belittle anyone's experience. I simply want to share my personal advice and hope that it helps anyone out there. But if any of this is triggering to you or makes you feel uncomfortable in any way, please feel free to click out. So with all that being said, let's get into the video. So I'm sure a lot of you can relate, but I gained weight over quarantine. So for me, it's been almost a year since I started working remotely, and there's just more access to food, less commute time, and less need to exercise, more time to spend with myself, all that jazz. And I gained 5 to 8 pounds over this time. So I know this doesn't seem like a lot to many people, but I'm 5'1", and to me, that really made a big difference. I could see like visible changes over this year that really made my self-esteem go down. And I know a lot of people can relate to feeling this way due to weight gain in general, no matter how much or how less. I'm not saying this to make light of anybody else's situation. To me, I think it's the feeling that a lot of us struggle with, that feeling like you've let yourself go. You don't have enough discipline to keep at a certain physical appearance, which that is just such a toxic mindset that we all need to get away from. But before we get there, there's a couple of stages that I had to go through first. So the first hurdle I had to get over was to just accept it. I think it's hard to live with yourself all the time, but I had to say to myself, this is the person I am. I'm the one who knows my metabolism, my exercise and food habits, my overall mental and physical health best. I'm the one who's lived with myself for 20 years, and this is just how my body functions. I'm not like someone who can eat everything, not exercise, and still look like what society thinks is acceptable. And by the way, that's like a whole other topic that I don't want to get too into in this video. First of all, I just had to accept that I'm a changing person. This is how my body is reacting to this time of just stress. Now it's time to decide, where do we go from there? And that led me to my second step, which was just move on. This was definitely one of the hardest steps for me. I took it pretty well, like, oh, I know that I'm gaining weight, but then how do I convince myself that that's not everything about me? My self-esteem has always been tied to a lot of body image issues, which is something I'm trying to work on, as I'm sure a lot of you out there can relate. But actually, one positive thing about working from home all the time is that you can flip it and say, nobody really cares about how I look like except for myself. They care more about the work I can do, conversations I have, my abilities and skills rather than my looks, because now I'm just reduced to a tiny Zoom screen on their computer. So what's the likelihood that anyone's going to give a single shit about what I look like outside of that? Two ways of reacting to weight gain could either be to go on a strict diet or just give up and say you failed yourself. I've definitely been on both ends of that spectrum. I've kind of like gone back and forth during this quarantine, but ultimately to escape from either of those, you just have to detach yourself from appearance. And that's definitely easier said than done. I still struggle with this daily, but to move on, I have to keep on saying to myself, I'm more than the way I look. I'm gonna use this time to not hyper focus on weight gain, but the other ways that I've changed, hopefully for the better. Next two steps I had to go through were to change my mindset. I've fallen into the trap of looking through my social media, my camera roll, my old videos a bunch of times and thinking, oh my gosh, like I look so much prettier back then. I was so much skinnier. I must have been so happy. But then I always try to rein myself back and say, were you really happy during that time? Even though you looked a certain way, weren't you always feeling like I have to be skinnier? I have to be more like what society thinks is pretty? You realize that all of this insecurity about weight isn't really about weight. Why do I have such low self-esteem to begin with? Why did I feel like I needed to change in order to fit into some sort of mold? This way of thinking actually helped me in the present. If I'm never going to be satisfied with how I look, why do I have to go to those extremes to conform myself? I know it's cliche when people say live in the moment because life is short, but oh my gosh, that is so hard to do when you kind of feel like about your appearance. However, I don't think you need to be stuck in this cycle. For me, I always try to rein back that hypercritical voice that tells me like I'm never going to be good enough, because when I get to slow down and think about it, I do realize that there are a lot of things that I am good at and I can get better at during this time. I can improve on my editing skills, my graphic design, doing well in my classes. And when I think about these soft skills I have, I can see weight as just a number and not a driver of my happiness. And instead, I can focus on aspects of my life that give me truly long-term fulfillment. And lastly, I can now change my perspective. Inevitably, I'll be looking at myself in the mirror every day, but instead of pointing out all my flaws again to myself, I can say, I think I look stronger and happier today because I completed a major project yesterday, or because I'm about to smash this workout today. Instead of guilting myself by saying, I can't eat this because I'll get fat, I want to say, I don't want to eat this because I know it won't make me feel good later. And when I work out, I can look in the mirror and say, I think my upper body strength is getting much better because I can lift these 10-pound weights without any problem. Or, oh my gosh, squats make my butt actually look really good. When you change your perspective on how you look at yourself, everything changes. You tend to focus less on your flaws and more on the true reasons that make you happy, like getting a really good workout in, eating a delicious meal with your family, or even just getting a good chunk of work done. I think these are much better measures to how well you're doing in life rather than your physical appearance and how you look. So to wrap it up, I think we just all tend to forget we're changing people sometimes. And that doesn't just mean mentally, but physically as well. You're not who you were 1 year ago, and you won't be who you are 10 years from now. We don't get to let other people, even ourselves, dictate how we should live based on mere physical changes. I think this is a message to you guys as much as it is for me, because this is something I'm constantly reminding myself of too. To not base my self-worth on others' opinions or even that critical voice in my own head. Of course, self-care is a very important part of this, and I might be doing a full video on that soon. Lastly, if you're struggling with body image, you're not alone. My channel is a safe space for any type of open discussion, and I just want to remind you that you're much loved and needed in this world. Don't let anybody else's opinions of what you look like change that. Hopefully, me sharing some of my personal thoughts on this matter has helped someone in some way, and that's all the reason why I'm making this video. So hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I'll see you guys very soon.